It didn't take long for Rashad Richey to weigh in on the Ohio police shooting of a 15-year-old boy. And you know how he's going to come down on this. Because if there's anything you got to know about Rashad Richey, it's all about race. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis, cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Ohio police, they shoot a 15-year-old over a toy gun.
No, they didn't shoot him over a toy gun. And this is the kind of language manipulation that he does all the time to rile up his viewing audience. The police didn't say, oh, he's carrying a toy gun, let's shoot him. No, didn't happen like that, Rashad.
Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again with Rashad and his ridiculous takes, but oh well.
Where are you coming from? Can I see your hands real quick? Oh, hey, it's fake! Shots fired! Shots fired! It's fake!
Now, there is no way in hell anybody can tell from that video footage what actually happened. Let's go back and play it again. And watch carefully. What can you tell is happening with the boy and the gun right before the cop opens fire?
Where are you coming from? Can I see your hands real
So right now, we can't see anything.
quick?
Can you tell what's going on?
Oh, hey, it's fake! Shots fired! Shots fired! It's fake! It's fake! It's fake! It's fake!
So the kid is yelling, it's fake, it's fake. Cop is not shooting him. The cop only opened fire one time, hitting the boy in the wrist. However, there is no way of knowing by looking at the video footage of what precipitated the opening shot. But that's not going to stop Rashad Richey from going ahead and declaring that this was an unjustified shooting.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this.
And I'm going to go ahead and skip through his begging for money.
Put up the picture full mass.
Dude, are you crying? Are you crying like a little wussy boy? What the hell?
Per multiple outlets, newly released body cam videos shows the moment's 15-year-old Tavion Koonce-Williams was shot while holding a fake toy gun by Akron, Ohio. A fake toy gun by Akron, Ohio police. The cop who did the shooting, we actually do have his name on record, Officer Ryan Westlake. April 1st is the incident date. It occurred within seconds of stopping the teen at Westlake. Now, your department veteran responded to a 911 call. Reports state the teen's injuries are not considered life-threatening because the teen was shot in the wrist. Injuries are not considered life-threatening because the teen was shot in the wrist. That's not because the officer tried to do that. The officer just missed.
Well, of course, the officer is not going to try to shoot the teen in the wrist. Only a moron thinks that a cop should ever do that. Well, maybe there is some sort of scenario where that would be appropriate. However, in 99% of the situations, you would not do that. And so, yeah, the officer missed. And by the way, it's Akron, not Akron. The fact that the kid is only 15, irrelevant, doesn't matter. You see a kid walking around with a gun, you're not going to ask for his ID.
Killing him. Okay, so understand this 15-year-old could be dead. So he does not have life. These are not life-threatening injuries, but they are injuries nonetheless, psychological and physical. The officer has been placed on paid administrative leave as state officials conduct an investigation.
Psychological injury, whatever. He got shot in the wrist. Get over it.
So the footage shows Tavion repeatedly screaming, "It's fake," over and over and over again.
That's right. And the cop does not shoot him after he's screaming, "It's fake." And who in here doesn't think that from a reasonable distance, with only a few seconds to spare, that this does not look like a real gun? I mean, sure, if you look up at it close here, like, it's pretty clear. And there's another thing. They always emphasize this within just a couple of seconds. If the cop had plenty of time to go over what the threat was, that would work more in your favor, Rashad. The fact that the cop had to take quick action actually works in the cop's favor. Now, I'm not saying that the cop is in the right here. The reason why I can't say that is because I don't know what happened. You see, the video footage doesn't show what happened right before the cop opened fire. Unlike you, Rashad, I wait for information to come out. Not to say that I haven't jumped the gun in the past a few times. It's hard to avoid, but I try not to. And yeah, it costs me viewers because people want the hot take right away. But I tend to hold off until I find out what actually happened before shooting my big mouth off. You got to try it, Rashad.
His voice is cracking as he begins to cry while complying with Westlake's commands to get on the ground. Investigators confirmed the gun was fake. The teen was returning home from his cousin's funeral, walking the area near his grandmother's home when he was approached by Officer Westlake. The incident began at 7:04 p.m., April 1st, when a woman walking her dog called 911 to report seeing a man pointing a gun at houses in East Akron. Akron. She said he was holding the gun sideways, as though he were going to shoot into homes, according to the 911 call audio that was released by the city.
Okay, we have reasonably articulated suspicion that the kid holding a gun has committed a crime. Therefore, the cop can detain him. And in so doing, during that time, if the kid displays anything that makes him look like a credible threat to the officer's safety, the officer can take matters into his hands at that point. It's really very simple. The cop either had a reasonable belief that his life was in danger or he didn't. It has nothing to do with the age of the kid.
In the released footage, Westlake finds Tavion at 7:11 p.m., parks alongside the teen. Westlake asks to see Tavion's hands. Where are you coming from? Can I see your hands real quick? Westlake asks before drawing his gun while getting out of his car and firing one round 3.5 seconds later. Responding officers decided to put a tourniquet on Tavion's arm.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so the officer asked him to show his hands. And right after that, the officer opens fire. Why did the officer open fire? It depends on what Tavion did. We don't know. We didn't see that in the video footage, and neither did you, Rashad. You know, maybe the officer was overly skittish, unreasonably skittish. We don't know. He may be in the wrong, but he also could be in the right. And maybe if we wait to find out actually what happened, perhaps that is the best way to go about this.
Because it was injured. And the young man had done nothing illegal. In his statement, the teen's attorney said Tavion was shot on the side of his wrist, suggesting that his hands were actually up at the moment he was in fact shot.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's a little bit of a leap there.
Attorney Okolo has vowed to seek justice for Tavion. Okolo said in the statement, Tavion is a high school student, now grappling with the trauma of being profiled and having his life flash before his eyes after being shot. Okolo maintained Tavion did nothing wrong, noting Ohio is an open carry state.
Yeah, you can repeat that all you want, Rashad, but you're disclosing your own ignorance of the law. You think that you're some sort of legal scholar or something like that. You don't know anything about the law. Whether or not Ohio is an open carry state has nothing to do with anything here. First of all, even though it's open carry, you can't have the gun out. You can't be waving it around. They got a 911 call that said that Tavion was pointing the gun into homes. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is true, you can't do that, even in an open carry state. But even then, it doesn't matter, because ultimately it comes down to, did the officer perceive a threat, and was that threat reasonable? An officer in an open carry state has the same right to self-defense as an officer in California. You're confusing gun rights with self-defense rights. Oh, why do I even try to explain this to him? He's never going to understand that. And by the way, I'm also sick of people taking these lawyers' opinions for gospel. They're paid liars. How many times have we heard Ben Crump get up there and lie?
He also stated Black boys deserve to grow up and live without the threat of walking home and being shot by the police.
One way to exercise that right is don't go waving toy guns around at people. Now, I don't know if that's what he did, but if he did, then he sort of waived his right, because you have to be responsible in your handling of even toy guns. I mean, look, a police officer pulls up, you got a toy gun in your hand? Man, you better be very careful about how you handle that gun. And you point it at the officer, he's going to blow your brains out. Okay? So you don't do those kind of things. And by the way, guns typically have orange tips on them if they are harmless. And why is that not appearing in the gun that this kid had? Well, we saw with Tamir Rice what happened. Tamir pulled the orange tip off because he wants it to look realistic. I get it. He's a 12-year-old kid, all right? He didn't understand that that made that gun look a lot deadlier than it was before. The person calling the 911 would have said it's a toy gun, or probably would not have called 911 at all. They saw the orange tip on it. Obviously, it's an air gun. Don't worry about it. But Tamir pulled the orange tip off, making it look real. And the same thing happened here, I think. Now, perhaps this was a gun that didn't have that when he bought it. I don't know. But that's a good question to ask. If this gun came with an orange tip on it, why is it not there?
He said something, once again, that sometimes gets brushed under the rug. It is an open carry state, which means even if a person is walking with an open weapon that's visible to you and me, that in its own context is not supposed to be illegal. All right?
This guy doesn't understand open carry laws at all. Rashad, you're a moron. Okay? That's not what open carry says. You can't go walking around with a pistol out in your hand, pointing it at people. It doesn't matter if it's open carry or not. It has to be holstered. And it was not holstered. So whether Ohio is an open carry state or not is irrelevant. No relevance whatsoever. Furthermore, he's only 15, and that makes possession of a handgun completely illegal. So your argument goes down the tubes regardless. So how many Juris Doctors do you have? No. No real ones.
Happen to not be a gun at all. There's more. The mayor, Shamas Malik, on the left, who is just shy of his 100th day in office, released the footage and Westlake's personnel file promising transparency, which is the reason we have the cops' information as the investigation continues. The file contains multiple complaints, multiple disciplinary actions, along with use of force incidents, including one deemed unreasonable. The city police chief, Brian Harding, is on the right. The department would not comment further beyond confirming that the gun was fake, and they will not say anything more because of the open investigation. The local Fraternal Order of Police chapter released a statement Tuesday saying Westlake, quote, acted within policy and procedure and according to his training. This is a throwaway line. They utilize this all the time. The personnel.
Is that the same as the throwaway lines that the family lawyers always use in these incidences? You know, he had turned his life around. He was going to go to college. All that stuff. We hear it every time.
File shows the police union previously represented Westlake and won him back his job after he pulled his firearm on his girlfriend. This happened in January.
Okay, I mean, that might be important. It's kind of odd, though, that when it comes to these kind of shootings, Rashad is all about getting the background information on the police officer, everything, but we're not allowed to look into the background of the person who was shot. Oh no, that's off limits. Oh, he's been nailed for armed robbery before, and the cop thought he was burglarizing home. Well, we can't use that armed robbery here. That's blaming the victim. Hypocrisy.
The union added, it knows people may have, quote, concerns about Westlake's personnel file, but that, quote, does not change the fact that this use of force on April 1st, 2024 was objectively reasonable. Well, that's interesting, Mr. Union Chief, because it doesn't have to be objectively reasonable for your cop to be protected. It simply needs to be subjectively reasonable to the police officer.
Right, but objectively reasonable is stronger than subjectively reasonable, dummy.
But it's ironic you utilize the word objective as if anybody in that same situation would react the same way, is typically what that means. But it's the subjective standard that typically gets them their de facto immunity.
Yeah, okay, so here's Rashad trying to show off to his audience about how much of a legal scholar he is. He's going to pick apart that statement to show them that objectively reasonable to anybody is not the same as subjectively reasonable to the cop. However, there's a big problem, Rashad. Objectively reasonable to everybody is stronger than subjectively reasonable. So what are you trying to say? He doesn't know what he's trying to say.
Westlake's history. Let's talk about it, because to me it is important. May 3rd.
Okay, is the kid's background important? Should we talk about that? I'm not saying that the kid has any kind of background. I'm just saying if he did, would he be in favor of talking about that? Oh no.
13th, 2021. Report listed 2 incidents that got Westlake in trouble. He used foul language and a homophobic slur showing his bigotry.
Oh, gee, that's rich coming from somebody who wrote this in their doctoral dissertation. For example, according to emerging progressive ideology, to question the religion of Islam is becoming defined as hate speech against Muslims. Oh no, we wouldn't want that. Just as to question the nature of homosexuality is becoming defined as hate speech against gay people. He's all pissed off that you can't criticize homosexuals without being called a hater. From that premise, progressives could easily move to outlaw viewpoints that are common against believers in traditional Western religion on the grounds that such viewpoints are filled with hate. Of course, this logic would be absurd and a clear violation of both freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Yeah, Rashad, you're real progressive, all right. And this is from his dissertation. I wonder, does Rashad know that this is in his dissertation? And if you're wondering what the Schofield Institute is, well, check this out. The original fake PhD. While Rashad Richey has laid claim to 7 different doctoral degrees over the years, the exact number he claims at any given time fluctuates between 2 and 5. With his current LinkedIn profile claiming 4 terminal degrees. I mean, it's a lot more now. When he is forced to pare it down, he mentions just 2 degrees, a 2020 EDD from Clark Atlanta University and a 2016 PhD from Schofield Graduate School and Theological Seminary, an unaccredited, unregistered, and unlicensed one-man show in Modesto, California. It's a small church. It was difficult to find much information on the school precisely because it is unregistered and unlicensed both in the city of Modesto and in the state of California. The school claims to be accredited in India, although the accreditation is not valid in India, only outside of it. Based on the lack of any legitimacy at all, this PhD claim from Rashad is fake. The founder, president, CEO, and only employee of the Schofield Graduate School is arch-conservative, homophobe Kenny Rhodes. The school is run out of a small church, and payments are to be made to the church itself. Nevertheless, Richey is proud of his degree from the alleged school and the dissertation that he produced there, mentioning it in many places such as his TYT biography. Yeah, Rashad.
During a March 2021 interaction. And there was an incident in January 2021 in which Westlake admitted he was drunk, and he decided to pull his gun out and point his firearm toward his girlfriend. The police chief recommended that Westlake be suspended. Westlake and his union representation appealed the recommendation. The man pulled out his gun illegally, menacing, okay?
Yeah, I don't know actually what happened, but it doesn't sound very good. I can't understand the circumstances that would permit something like that, but, again, I don't know the facts of the case. If somebody wants to look into the background, I'd be very appreciative of it.
He's drunk. He's in possession of a firearm and intoxicated. He gets suspended. Representation appealed the recommendation for suspension, but documents show the former mayor fired Westlake on July 20th, 2021. The next day, the city agreed to a deal with the union that Westlake be reinstated and serve a 71-day suspension without pay for his violations, according to the agreement document in his personnel file. Wow, there's more. For some in Ohio, the shooting brought to mind the 2014 killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice.
Completely irrelevant to this incident, Rashad. Sorry. No, there is no more to it. And you can't convict this cop because of what happened in Philadelphia. I think it was Philadelphia. No, it was in Cleveland. And yeah, this was tragic. But again, as I said before, Tamir Rice played a major role into what happened to him. He was 12 years old. I get it. But you can't blame the cops when a kid pulls out a gun on him. I mean, yeah, later it turns out to be a toy, but they didn't know that. And I agree that the cops made some mistakes there, okay? I already have another video on this, and I'll post a link in the description.
Who was shot by Cleveland police while holding a pellet gun. Rice's mother, Samaria Rice, told the Plain Dealer in Cleveland on Tuesday that Westlake didn't have to shoot Tavion. Quote, "This is ridiculous. We have to fight back against the policies and procedures of policing."
She's not an expert on this, okay? In fact, she's one of the worst people that you could ask about this because she's going to provide the least objective take on it. She knows nothing more than we do about whether this was a justified shooting. So her opinion doesn't matter. At least it doesn't matter any more than you or me or anybody else's.
Thank God he did not kill the young man. That's right. Thank God, because if it was up to the cop, the kid would be dead.
Okay, at this point, Rashad, you're being an asshole. All right? How would you know? Did you interview him? Or are you just pulling this out of your ass? Well, you know the answer to that question.
Here we go again. All right. So this is when they do that, they piss on your head and tell you that it's raining routine. Jordan, thoughts?
Who are these clowns he brings in here? I mean, they don't add anything.
Yeah, when I first heard about this story, my mind immediately went to Tamir Rice. It was There's so many similarities from somebody calling the police, describing a young black boy in the same way you would describe a man. In Tamir's case, it was he saw it as a man. But he, at least in that one, he said, I think that the gun is fake. It's probably fake. And here we have the same instance, a child just playing with a toy. I mean, you want the proliferation of guns. It's an open carry state, but a black child playing with the toy that replicates this consumer product that everyone loves here in America. That's the problem. And you see the way racial bias affects people's understanding.
Just shut the hell up, man. Enough of you. Okay, so there it is. Rashad Richey offers an uninformed opinion. Once again, doesn't wait until the facts come out. And when the facts do come out, and if they do somehow oppose everything he said, not a word from him. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if the cop perceived a real threat or not. He wants the cop fired and imprisoned because this is all about politics. He hates cops, and he especially hates white cops. So anytime that a white cop is going to interact with a person of color, it's always going to be the white cop's fault. Personally, I don't know what happened here. Maybe the cop did act unreasonably. There may be some ring cameras in the neighborhood that might tell us something here. I don't know. I'm going to wait to find out. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.